All right, all right. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? No, you're not dreaming. No, this isn't a mistake. This is the Overtime Sports Show coming to you live on a Wednesday for the first time. Had a little bit of a scheduling conflict yesterday. We did not want to deprive all of our faithful listeners and watchers. And we are here on a Wednesday to talk sports with you for the next hour, hour and a half or so. Appreciate you guys tuning into us as always. My name is Greg Gross, my co-host Dan O'Brien. We start every single show with a famous hat reveal. We're coming to the end of that, but today's no different, so I'm going to turn it over to Dan. I know you got a little bit of a surprise for me, Dan. I can't wait to see it. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had to switch it up a little bit. It was my, my quote-unquote day job. I had to travel a little bit, so we were in South Florida. Saw a friend of the show, Chris Dolan. We'll talk about him here a little bit later. But yes, without further ado, I have a little video I want to start. So here we go.
Baseball's never been hotter with the Jacksonville Suns. Baseball's never been better. The Suns are better than ever. Baseball's never been hotter with the Jacksonville Suns. It's never dark on the baseball grounds when the Suns are on the field. So come on down for the best show around. It's a big-time family deal. Day and night, you're sure to have fun. Catch the fever with the Jacksonville Suns. Baseball's never been hotter with the Jacksonville Suns. Baseball's never been better. The Suns are better than ever. Baseball's never been hotter with the Jacksonville Suns.
Wow. So a little bit of background with that. So let me start with something. I'm going to start with one hat that I did about episode 4, and then I got a brand new hat about this episode. So give me 1 second. So this hat right here is a Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, they call it. It's the new logo from the Jacksonville Suns. So that intro video that everybody heard and or watched, that was the old school Jacksonville Suns. It was a little info commercial. They played on all the local radio shows, and their old logo was the Jacksonville Suns, but now it's the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, and it's a AAA team for the Florida Marlins. And they play out here in Jacksonville. So if you please hold, I'll put on the brand new hat.
Okay.
So this bad boy right here is the alternate blue hat that they have, Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. It as of right now, it concludes my 18 weeks of new hats. So
very nice. Well done.
I think that does do a round of applause. I'll give it to myself as well, because 18 weeks of new hats is pretty impressive, if I had to say so myself. So
very, very impressive. I think you have 16 more hats than I do. Something like that. I don't own many hats myself. It's impressive that you kept up the hat reveal streak for this long. So it's been awesome. I personally look forward to it. You have a pretty nice collection. Good story behind each one. With these hats, I really like the Jumbo Shrimp, both of them. I think the logo's cool. I think the name is cool. I really thought you were going to pull out a Jacksonville Suns hat.
I was trying to. I was really thinking about it, but it's they're hard to come by now because the new owner. They have a new owner. They changed logos. They changed the name of the team, obviously, and they actually got a new stadium. About 10, 12 years ago. So I wanted a Jacksonville Suns hat, but they're hard to come by nowadays.
So I bet you there's a couple up on eBay. When we start making money from this thing, we'll take some funds from the show and buy one for you. Those things are probably some treasured relics. I got to say that song was something else.
Yeah, how'd you like it?
I don't know if it was in the beginning, the middle rather. It started to get a little catchy, and then the more I listened to it, it went back to cringeworthy. Like that was. That was interesting to say the least, but
baseball's never been hotter with the Jacksonville Suns. Come on, man.
I guess so. I guess so, man. That's a jingle for the ages, but I like it. That's awesome. So
Yep, all my local
stuff.
people like it. The friend of the show, Jeff Creason, he knows all about that. So, just want to do a blast from the past and finish it off with a cool little hat. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Well done. Good stuff. So quick little programming note before we get into all the action the past week or so. Next week, we're going to take a bit of a hiatus. Again, small scheduling conflicts. So if you're looking for us next week, we won't have an episode. The following week leading up to the Super Bowl, we are going to forego our regular time slot on Tuesdays. And we're actually going to do a special show. Dan and I are going to be together for the Super Bowl. We're going to hang out over the weekend and watch the Super Bowl together. And we're actually going to do one of these shows together in the same room for the first time, rather than doing it remote. So pretty exciting. It's going to hopefully have a little bit of a different flavor and flair being in the same room. But you can expect the same full sports coverage out of us. So just keep that in mind. No show next week. And then the following week, we'll be doing it on the weekend, most likely on Friday. But stay tuned to our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see the actual schedule and time. But
yep, like I mentioned earlier, it's I got to do my day job, so I got to go to Dallas, and got to what they say, kiss some babies, shake some hands, meet some people. But watch some curveballs. We'll have a live show, and in color, in person, and it's going to be fun. We'll have some fun curveballs and maybe some cool props. We got a week and a half to plan, so it'll be fun.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
Exactly. Looking forward to it. So.
Yep.
Whole bunch of stuff happened since the last time we met a week or so ago. Had some breaking news tonight that I think we'll get into, but I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the NFL action. It's been a couple days since the games went down, but for me, it's still top of mind. There's fewer games now, obviously, as we get close to the big game, so less actual matchups to talk about. But in my opinion, no less action, no less drama. Things to talk about are still out there. I want to begin with the game that probably surprised me the most. One I was looking forward to. Didn't disappoint in terms of, I think, what we saw on the field, the level of play, the competitiveness, but just the results surprised me a little bit, and a little disappointed. I'm sure the players are, but that's the Chiefs-Bills game. And I say all this because I really thought this was the year where the Bills were going to get over the proverbial hump. I really thought it was Josh Allen's time where he was going to get the victory, the edge over, I think at this point, what it's fair to say is his arch nemesis, if you will. It's just him and Mahomes have this great rivalry now. I think this duel. Lamar is still building a case, or is building a case for himself in that competition. But I think most people would agree. It's really been the last couple of years. It's been the Mahomes and Allen show back and forth. 1A, 1B, probably the best two quarterbacks, at least in the AFC. And it was a great game that we all tuned into, I think. I was just really, really surprised at the result. I know Bills Mafia is got to be just crushed. It's going to live with them all off season until next August, September. We start this thing all over again, and maybe they get their hearts crushed. It just seems like they get their hearts crushed over and over and over again. And they're such a devoted fan base. So my heart really goes out to Bills fans this week. I know my team, I'm a Giants fan. They crushed them 30 plus years ago. And it's amazing that the loss that we saw on Sunday happened to come in sort of similar fashion. If I'm referring to the 1990 Super Bowl, Scott Norwood, most people, if you're old enough, know that he had a chance to win the Super Bowl for the Bills against the Giants, and he kicked it wide right. Those famous words, time expires, and they ended up losing by 1 point. And this missed field goal that we saw by Bass was not as time expires, but it might as well have been. It was close enough. You hate to put all the game on him. He doesn't bear all the responsibility, but it's eerily similar how the games went down. And I feel for Bills fans. I don't know what it's going to take for them to get that elusive Super Bowl victory that frankly, I think they deserve. I think the team deserves it. I think the fans certainly deserve it. And I just don't know what they have to do at this point. But my heart goes out to them. I was surprised at the result. Josh Allen turned the season around. We talked about how they did a 180 when they fired their coordinators and coaches sort of midseason. It looked like things were setting up for them to have a showdown with the Ravens and maybe get to the Super Bowl, and they don't even make it out of the divisional round. So I wanted to spend a few moments, give my thoughts on that game. Dan, I know you got some thoughts. Curious what you make of what we saw with Mahomes and Allen.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it was the best game of the weekend, which we talked about last week. And I remember we'll talk about the bracket that we did, but I had the Chiefs going all the way to the championship game against the Ravens. So I was behind them 100%. I knew, they've been topic of conversation all 18 episodes long. We talked about where the Chiefs at, where the Chiefs been, where they're going. And, I always said that they were going to, back it up, and experience is experience is experience. When we made our picks, those are my 3 words. So, touching on that, just really, really interesting. But like you said, I don't know when they're going to be able to pop the hump. The Bills, they have a great team. They got Josh Allen. They have a really good defense. They have a good offense. But it just looks like the Chiefs wanted it more from what I saw. I mean, a lot of people can put all the blame on that kicker, but, the Bassmaster, as I call him, a nice little nickname for him. He had a hell of a year. I mean, he's a top 5 kicker. And listening to the New Heights podcast earlier today, as I always mentioned to him, I mean, the win was rocking. Travis Kelce, who obviously played for the Chiefs, he mentioned that the win was, rocking and go back and forth. So you can't put all the blame on the Bassmaster. I mean, he's a really good kicker. And, a couple cool stats that I wanted to mention about that game. So first of all, with Travis Kelce's second touchdown, they broke the record for most touchdowns for a duo in NFL history, with 16, passing Tom Brady and Ron Gronkowski. So that's one hell of a stat when you really think about it. I mean, 16 receptions between a quarterback and a tight end. What that talks about is longevity, and it talks about consistency, and just the way that they both play together. And it's very, very impressive. And another stat too, that Patrick Mahomes has made the NFL championship game, the AFC championship game, every single year since he's been a starter. I want to say it's 6 straight years. So that's 6. A pretty impressive stat.
Yep. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Touch on a couple things you mentioned. Like it is crazy the success that Mahomes has had to start his career. 6 for 6. It's not been a walk in the park. It's not like he's not had to go up against adversity. There was talk about how this was his first road game, I think, other than the Super Bowl in the playoffs. And clearly it didn't really seem to bother him. We know he can play in the cold weather. It gets just as cold in Kansas City this time of year as it does anywhere else. So, it's really, really impressive the way he started his career. And, as you mentioned, he's still young. And Kelce's not necessarily a spring chicken. I wouldn't consider him over the hill either. At this point, he's probably what you consider just a veteran at this point. And despite the fact that Mahomes is still somewhat young, I would say, and got a lot of football ahead of him, he's already passing and beating guys that are considered the greatest of all time. I think it's sort of indisputable at this point. Most people consider Brady the greatest. And even when it comes to tight end, I was thinking about this past weekend with Gronk. He retired maybe a few years earlier than he necessarily had to for various reasons, but even some people are considering him the greatest tight end ever. I mean, who else are you thinking of? Tony Gonzalez. I'm thinking of some guys going back to like the late 90s, and their names are obviously escaping me now, but there was
Antonio Gates.
Antonio Gates was one. Yep. Actually, he wasn't one of the ones I was thinking of, but there's been a few up there. But already Kelce's in that conversation too, and he's still got a few years left. So I think really, in my opinion, it's incredibly impressive how these guys are breaking records from the greatest, and they still got some years ahead of them, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think Kelce is 2 years younger than us. I don't want to say he's 34. So, tight end is a hard position, but still, I mean, him and Mahomes, they can go for, 3-4 more years and breaking more records. I just thought that was really impressive. And another stat that I pulled up when you were talking about Josh Allen versus the Chiefs, the crazy stat that I just pulled up is they're actually 3-3 against each other. However, Josh Allen is 3-1 in the regular season, but 0-2 in the playoffs. So I don't know if, Mahomes is the new arch nemesis of Josh Allen, but kind of an interesting stat when you really think about it. 3-1 in the regular season and 0-2 in the postseason. So
Yeah.
it could be, remember back in the day, it was Brady and Peyton Manning. I mean, Peyton Manning eventually got the best of Brady, but I want to say Brady had to have been at least 5-0 or 5-1 in the postseason against Peyton Manning back in the day when they were going up against each other. So, I mean, he's got to get against it or he's got to move conferences. I mean, there's who really knows what's going to happen in the future, but it's just an interesting stat how that comes to fruition.
Yeah, you're right. That's crazy. Like, I can't imagine that's something that he wants to do. Move conferences.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking
get away
hypothetical.
from the guy, but yeah, it's like, what else does he have to do? It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I just think that by far was the best game of the weekend. I'm glad that we started with that, and then we can go from there. But my Chiefs, I called it beginning of the bracket, not to repeat myself, but I just knew that the experience was going to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, staying on that game for a minute, you did call it. I just, with these two teams, they're clearly very evenly matched. I mean, the game was back and forth for a while, which again, I thought entertainment-wise, I thought it was all right there. Both quarterbacks were making plays. The defenses made some plays here and there when they had to. So it was a great game, and I think you could almost flip a coin. It was that close. It's just for whatever reason, I thought it was the Bills' time. It seemed like, again, I really go back to the fact that we've talked about it on the show for several weeks. I think momentum is a real thing in all sports.
Sure. Definitely.
In hockey, people talk about you can ride a hot goalie towards the end of the year and take you to a Stanley Cup. Baseball, to me, baseball is a little bit more of a collective, but you could ride a hot pitcher sometimes. And, we know how they typically play, every third game or so in the playoffs instead of every 5 games. So you could really ride, a hot player. And I think, I thought it was going to be Josh Allen. He just seemed like he was really,
he was rocking and rolling, man.
Yeah. And to me, it seemed like the Bills front office made all the right moves by shaking things up when they did. So I really thought it was his time. But again, all credit to Patrick Mahomes. We talked about it this year, how he doesn't have a great complement of weapons. Kadarius Toney has been just a bit of a joke at times. Even Kelsey started out, a little streaky this year. People thought he was kind of cooling off. And obviously he had the whole Taylor Swift stuff that could very easily be a complete distraction. And he had a pretty monster game. What did he have? I think he had 2 touchdowns this past week.
Yeah, that second touchdown broke the record. So, he had 2 touchdowns.
There you go. So, I mean, he had a monster game despite stuff that could easily distract him, take his focus away. I think Butker made a field goal or 2. Obviously, credit to Andy Reid and the coaching staff. Spags, their coordinator, I think was calling all the right plays at the right time. So full credit to the Chiefs. Can't take anything away from them. I thought it was the Bills' time. So wild game there. And I have no doubt, like you said, unless something crazy happens where Allen switches teams, who knows if somebody like Diggs moves on. I haven't seen his contract, but sure enough, they were cutting away from the game after the loss. And I think that somebody was maybe baiting Diggs into something, but he's the way he's reacted to some losses in the past. I think people wanted to put a camera on him and see if he was going to pout or call anybody out, maybe call out the kicker or something. So unless something like that happens, I think we're going to continue to see Bills Chiefs for the foreseeable future. I don't think that matchup's going anywhere, but kudos to the Chiefs, and it sets up a really good matchup for them and the Ravens.
Quick hot take on that game, real quick. It's been a hot take, all year long, and I wanted to have your thoughts real quick on that rule with the fumble where it goes in the end zone and it goes to a touchback to the other team. I think, in general, I think it's a bad rule. I think that if it happens like that, it should either go back to the offense, and best case scenario, it should go back to a touchback, but not for the other team, but for the team that fumbles. Because at the end of the day, the team that got the touchback, they never had possession. They're only getting it because of a touchback. So I think that end of the year, they should revisit that law or that rule and either give it back to the team or move it back to their own, the 20-yard line. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are. I just wanted to get a hot take on that.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I
Yeah.
kind of forgot that play happened.
Mhm.
It was pretty pivotal. I'll say my opinion is I don't dislike the rule as it exists today.
Really? How come?
I can see why it exists because it's a penalty essentially. You're running with the ball, going towards the goal line. You cough it up, fumble it.
Yep.
It goes into the end zone. You're right. Obviously, the other team doesn't recover, but the point is the team carrying the ball fumbles it. It goes through the end zone, so there should be a repercussion to that. Like you mentioned, I even though I don't have a problem with the rule today, I'm not opposed. Again, sort of majority rules thing. I don't know how the NFL decides, if it's by committee when they come up with these rule changes, but if enough people hate the rule, it wouldn't bother me any if they decided to tweak it a little bit. I could see them maybe making it so that if the team who fumbles, the ball goes back to the team who had possession and maybe give them a 10-yard penalty or something consistent
I'm
like
thinking
that.
like the 20-yard line, like I was saying,
Bring it back to
fumble
the
it
20,
and then bring it
yeah.
back to the 20s. But I'm just not a
Something
fan of
like
it because I mean, you got to have it's a hard way to get the ball. I mean, why give it to them if they haven't done anything? I mean,
I
I
I
can see both sides of it, but I just
so
wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think if they did make a change, just trying to think completely for argument's sake here,
Yep.
I don't think they could bring the ball back to the 20 because this is extremely rare. I mean, the play itself is rare enough where I don't see the rule changing to begin with because I think it is so rare that, it's probably the NFL's this probably isn't on their list of things that they need to address.
Yep.
When it happens, it's impactful, obviously, but it's pretty rare. I don't know the numbers, but either way, let's just say a guy is, I mean, this happens. Like a player breaks a 40, 50-yard run. So let's say they're
Well, they
at
run like an
midfield.
idiot too, and they put the ball like that, and then it gets popped out, and then it goes to a touch.
So let's say they're at midfield, right? And a
Yep.
player breaks a 50-yard run and he's carrying the ball, gets hit, fumbles it into the end zone. In that scenario, you can't, you could, but I don't think you should put the ball at the 20 because then you're giving them 30 yards if they were at the 50 when this happened,
Yeah.
I mean, technically you're taking away a touchdown, but it wasn't a touchdown anyway. It was a fumble. So I think you'd have to, if you're going to amend the rule,
Maybe case by case study.
yeah, a case by case study for sure. I think you'd have to
Yeah.
penalize the team like 10 yards or something. But here's the whole reason why I don't have a problem with it as it exists today is because it is a penalty, and I think it places emphasis on taking care of the football
Ball
when you're near
security.
the goal line. And the one thing I want to compare it to is there's a discrepancy and a difference between touchdown types. So a quarterback who throws the ball to a receiver in the end zone, the receiver does have to complete the process and whatever that verbiage is, which is completely different than a running back who all they have to do is break the plane. Literally, the nose of the football, a millimeter, just has to go over that white, and then it's a touchdown. It's not the same for a receiver. They can have two hands on the ball, pretty much have their feet on the ground, but almost have to go to the ground in order for it to be a good touchdown. I think that's kind of why this rule is in play, is that you have to secure the football if you're a running back, and if it pops out and goes into the end zone, well, that's your penalty, kind of like the penalties receivers have. If they don't complete the process, it's no touchdown. So
I get it.
That's kind of why I kind of like it, but it wouldn't break my heart if they changed it too.
That's just for me. I mean, we won't break a dead horse, but I'm just thinking, the defense didn't do anything to get the ball. Why should they have it? So that's just I know it's a penalty, but the penalty could be bringing it back, on the 5-yard line, you're on the 20-yard line instead, but it's not the defense's ball. But that's just, I thought it was a interesting thought to bring up, for
it is. It is a weird rule because you're right. Like it doesn't make who knows I don't know when this was decided. I mean, has it been a rule in the NFL since the NFL was created? I have no idea.
No, I think it's been a couple of years, and every single year they, have the league meetings, so they might bring it up and think about training it or changing it.
I think it's been a rule for as long as I've been a football fan, right? Like,
okay.
I don't know. Like, it's not a new rule, right?
Let me see.
I mean, I guess my point is I think it's been a rule for 20, 30 years, if not longer. I don't know if it's been a rule for 100 years, is my point. Like, I don't know if this has always been a rule going back to when they wore leather helmets and things like that. See if you can look it up. Either way, like I said, I just don't think this is high on their list, the rules committee. All you got to do is tune in to any post-game show or Twitter feed or something, and you have a laundry list of people complaining about the officials and this type of rule, because of how infrequently I think it happens, probably not up there. But
yeah, I can't find like the year, so whatever. We can move on to another game.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you brought it up. It's interesting. I wonder if there's any kind of rules about how many rule changes they can make in a given off season. Obviously you don't want to completely turn the league upside down. We know that they moved extra points back to the 30-yard line or 35.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. They did that 2-3 years ago.
Yes.
We know that they moved kickoffs up a little bit, right? Because the kickers used to start from, I think, the 30, and then they moved them back to the 20. No, I'm sorry. They used to start at the 25, and they moved them up to the 30, so that now more kicks end up in touchbacks, I think, something like that. So,
and the touchback moved from 20 to 25 a couple of years ago. Remember, it used to be on the 20. Yep.
So, they introduced rule changes. You never know. Maybe they will make something like that. But I wanted to go to, before we get to the matchups this coming week with the Ravens Chiefs, I wanted to touch on the Ravens Texans a little bit, because that was just a game where I was pretty wrong. The spread was, I think, 9 or 9.5 in that game, and I didn't really think that the Texans were going to win. Wouldn't have shocked me if they did, but I did expect it to be a close game, and
so did I.
It really just wasn't. I think the Texans met their match. I think Stroud met his match. He had a phenomenal season. Hats off to him. I think what we saw this week, I don't think it was a flash in the pan or any kind of anomaly. I fully expect him to have another good season. I think he's got a great coaching staff there. If they can keep some weapons around him, maybe acquire some free agents or something, I think they're going places. I talked about it a bit this throughout our journey here on this show, that I have CJ Stroud on my fantasy team. He's probably going to be my keeper if I'm lucky enough. So really, really impressed with his season. But again, I use this phrase a lot. You can't take away from the team that won. You can't take away from anything that the Ravens did, coaching staff. Not a flawless game, but pretty close. I mean, there was a lot of questions from people about, hey, is CJ Stroud leading this dynamic offense that will be too potent for the Ravens, especially with the Ravens having a week off? People thought, we talked about momentum just, a few minutes ago. Was that going to hurt the Ravens having a break? But it didn't. If anything, it gave them an opportunity to get a little more healthy. Mark Andrews was not back for that game, but there's talk that he might be back this coming week, I think. And the Ravens just, they played a really good game, and I think towards the second half, they really started to pull away, and you could just see that CJ Stroud and company, I think they gave it all they had, but they were just no match for the Ravens. They are just too good. They're too deep. That defense is too ferocious, and they took care of business. So that was a game that was a little more surprising and not as close as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, technically it was 34-3 because their only touchdown, remember, was a punt return. So they, the Ravens, you mentioned it probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. You called it as the MVP. He's playing like an MVP. He's finally showing up in the playoffs as he hasn't in the past. And that defense, you hit it right on the top. Ferocious. I mean, they're coming at all angles. Raekwon Smith, Javion Clowney, my boy Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame alumni. They're they're rocking and rolling. So it's going to be a very interesting game this week with the Chiefs. I think we'll talk on it towards the end of the show, but they might have the upper hand just because they're home. They play good at home. That crowd was loud. I don't know if you watched that game live, but that crowd was loud, man. They were ready to rock and roll. They want to see the Ravens do well. I mean, number 1 seed. They showed up. And very impressive with them. Very impressed. I mean,
Yeah.
and to touch on your point, the Texans aren't going anywhere. I mean, we've touched on it, 4 or 5 weeks in a row. Their team is young at the core. I mean, CJ Stroud, first-year player. Devin Singletary, he's a 5-year player, first year on the team. D'Amico Ryans, first-year head coach. Will Anderson, rookie. And their whole defense is young. Their wide receivers, Nico Collins, he's a 2-year player out of Michigan. The guy who broke his leg, help me up with his name, number 13. What was his name? You know what I'm talking about.
Hank Hill?
Yep, he was a rookie, so he's going to be around. They had Schultz. They got him from tight end from the Cowboys. So they have a pretty solid young team. I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, everybody knows my thoughts on the lovely Jaguars as to keep it PG. I don't want to go any other way, but I think they're here to stay in that division. They got a good squad, a good coaching staff, and, a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, when you just gave the rundown mostly of their offense, obviously their coach too, you made me think like, man, they are a deep team. It shouldn't be.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Tank Dell. That's the guy I was thinking of. Yeah, Tank Dell. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a deep team. So if they can make some adjustments, bring some talent in on the defensive side of the ball, they could really go places next year. And like you said, the division, the way the Jaguars collapsed this year, I don't think the Titans rather are unless they bring in a lot of pieces. I still think they have a lot of work to do. Colts may be a different story. They've got Richardson. If Taylor sticks around, I could see them being competitive again next year. But Texans are poised to go places. So I'd be
just with that nucleus. I mean, that's all it takes. That nucleus.
Yeah. So they'll stick around. Another game that was super, super close, kind of like the Chiefs Bills, was Packers 49ers. I mean, ended up 3-point game, and it looked like for a little while that the Packers had a shot at pulling off a pretty big upset. Saw what they did week prior and just completely demolishing Dallas at home. So it looked like, being on the road did not bother them. Talked about how Jordan Love was really taking care of the football. We spent some time, I think, on the previous show running down his schedule and the fact that I believe it was the Giants who were the last team to actually pick him off. It was 8 or 9 games in a row where he had no interceptions and was, again, momentum. I think that's like the theme of the show. You're riding momentum, and it looked like the Packers were going to be able to pull off this upset. But kind of in a twist of irony, we all know how the game ended. There was some time on the clock, and in my opinion, just a little out of character, I think you could say, but more than anything else, just you got to call it what it is, just a bad throw, bad decision by Jordan Love to sort of force the ball. It didn't look like his receiver was in good position on the final drive when he ended up getting picked off, which sealed the game. And it's tough to go out that way. I'm sure that's going to be weighing on him the entire offseason, until he gets to go back on the field and start another season. Because it's certainly they were in the game, and not to say that they would have scored anyway. A lot of things had to happen, but he was poised to potentially lead a comeback, and then after 8-9 weeks in a row of playing near flawless football, he throws like I said, a pretty bad pick. There's just no other way to really spin it. I didn't see. I'm sure he was asked about it in his post-game pressers and whatnot. I didn't see his explanation. I don't know what you could say about it other than, hey, I didn't see the guy, or I just made a bad read, or maybe I was nervous, forced the football, whatever it is. But just kind of unfortunate the way that ended. I will say, before I give you the floor and give you your thoughts on the game, I didn't expect the Packers to be this good this year and to have a bit of the resurgence they did. They looked like they were struggling pretty early in the year, and they kind of turned it on. Jordan Love, again, was really taking care of the football. When you don't turn the ball over, it's amazing, the successes you can have. It might sound obvious, but I think that's a big part of it. The rest of the team obviously showed up when they needed to. Got to give some credit to Matt LaFleur, pushing the right buttons, making the right moves. But I wasn't sure about the talent on the Packers as a whole. Jordan Love being so green and coming out of the rookie year, I didn't expect them to be this good. So another, I think, strong season, similar to a guy like Stroud and the Texans. didn't really expect them to be there in the conversation. So I think they got a lot to hang their hat on, and I'll definitely be interested to see what they do next year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we last show we talked about his, at last 8-9 weeks. Jordan Love, he's a force to be reckoned with. I feel that they have the right deal at quarterback. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think that last play, he was nervous, he was forceful. I mean, he did not have to force that throw in. I mean, if you look at the replay, he was running, and throw up his back foot. I mean, that's recipe for disaster. But I mean, he's the real deal. I think the Packers have something to build around, very similar to the Texans, as you said. He's a young quarterback. I do want to touch on Aaron Jones, though. I mean, I just did the math. In the last 5 weeks, he had 584 yards rushing. So they really tackled on Jordan Love, playing that really good game, and Aaron Jones rushing the ball. I mean, he came out of nowhere, and I want to say he set some Packer playoff records and regular season records of rushing for at least 100 yards. But they're a good team to be reckoned with. They're young as a whole. I mean, look at their receivers. Romeo Dobbs, he's a 2-year player. Jaden Reed, he's a rookie. Luke Musgrove, he's a rookie. Christian Watson, he's a 2-year player. And Aaron Jones has been around for, I want to say 5-6 years, but they could build around that, and they got the right coach. LaFleur's a really good coach, as we saw with Aaron Rodgers the last 3 years, and this year with Jordan Love as a 1-year starter coming in. But very impressed with them. I think, like the Texans, they should be a force to be reckoned with in the NFC North, behind the Lions, obviously.
I was just going to mention that, like, you never know what's going to happen. It's a long off season in the NFL.
Oh yeah,
but the Bears are going to have 2 pretty high picks.
Yep.
And if they can add some key pieces, maybe if I was them, I'd probably try to get an offensive player and a defensive player just to sort of balance things out. I think they need help on both sides of the ball, but you got to imagine those are probably going to be impact players right away. I don't expect Detroit, they're obviously still in the thing. So you're probably looking at Detroit, I would say Chicago and Green Bay being pretty competitive teams next year. And Minnesota, I mean, they had a string of bad luck. We don't know what they're going to do with Cousins, but Jefferson's a heck of a weapon. So that could be a division that is as tight as any come next year. So I mean, Packers had a good season, came up a little bit short. Again, it's hard to find flaws in their seasons when you lose to what is arguably the best team or second best team in the entire league. And before, again, we get to future matchups with the Niners and Lions, we got to talk about what the Lions did with the Bucs. I was, watching that game pretty intently. A lot of friends who are Bucs fans in this area, so was rooting for them. Didn't know what to expect with this game. I did think the Lions were gonna win. I think it was a little bit of fool's gold with the Bucs, kind of just asking too much. Baker had a heck of a season. Mike Evans has had a good year and has just been a heck of a receiver his entire tenure with the Bucs. Even Rachaad White, I think, kind of was overachieving. The defense had its moments, but I think you were just asking a little bit too much from the Bucs. Talking to some of my close friends who are diehard Bucs fans, they had very little expectations for the Bucs. Some even wanted them to just outright lose so that they could get a high pick and really try to find their next quote unquote franchise quarterback, because I think there was a lot of questions as to whether that was Baker or even Trask. So I think the Bucs in a lot of ways overachieved, and I think what we saw the week prior, as much as it was the Bucs playing well, you got to give them a little credit. I think it was just the Eagles were that bad. I really do. The Eagles are just a gigantic mess of a team. So in ways that probably did the Bucs a bit of a disservice. It might have been a little bit better if they were playing a team that was actually in form and not in complete disarray. It might have gotten them in a little bit better shape and prepared to play a team like the Lions, who, in my opinion, are just very well balanced. They're one of those teams, we talk about it. They got playmakers on offense, playmakers on defense. They got a head coach that just seems like one of those player coaches because he was a player. So
for sure.
they're just a well-rounded team, and I think it was just too much for the Bucks to overcome. I kind of wanted your thoughts on this, and it's something that we could probably get too lost in the weeds on, but I figured I'd bring it up because it's that never-ending debate when it's appropriate to go for two, when it's not. I'm sure you know the play I'm talking about. In this particular case, I don't think it had too much of an impact on the game, but there's people out there that are saying it did, or there's people that are saying it was the right time to go for it. I don't think in this situation it ended up having too much of an impact, but just on the situation itself, I'm kind of curious where you come out. I think I've been on record saying between the two, I think there's a place for both analytics and the quote unquote eye test. I'm more of a, I guess you could say, traditional guy. I'm not one of those, get off my lawn kind of guys, stare at the clouds kind of thing. I definitely see a place for analytics and I pay attention to them. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to ignore what I see right in front of me. I'm also going to trust my own instincts and my judgment. And with that said, I just think teams and coaches go for two way too often and way too early. That's just my opinion. And, again, it's that endless debate. We could probably go on forever. I want your thoughts. The reasons why I don't like going for it for too often, and especially not too early, is because, again, not to beat a dead horse, like we talked about a couple times on the show already, but momentum. If you put your team in a situation where you scored a touchdown, you could easily tack on 1 point, and you don't have to put yourself in this situation where if you miss the 2 point, if you go for the 2 point try and miss it, now you've got all this undue pressure. You're starting to think about, okay, we need to score a touchdown and then go for two again. Like, in my opinion, control what you can control. Take the easy points. And I know people will say, yeah, the stats say there's a greater than 50% chance. Maybe they do. Maybe that means you're going to get it more often than you're not. But what I compare it to is, okay, there's a 50 or 55% chance of getting it when you go for it on two versus what? A 90 or a 95% chance of getting the PAT. I mean, I know they moved those back and kickers do miss them every once in a while now, but I'll go with the 95% odds versus the 55% odds so that we get the easy point and I don't have to start thinking about going for two unless I absolutely need to. That's just me. I mean, I get the other arguments to a degree and I want to hear yours, but I don't think it's worth it to go for it until you absolutely have to.
Yeah, this one was really perplexing to me because, I mean, end of the day, this is simple arithmetic. I mean, technically, if they get a field goal, it's going to be 31-24, 7 points. So you get an extra 1 point. You're still down 6 points. So this one in this game was very perplexing because end of the day, what did you gain? You gained a minuscule amount of momentum and you still got to get 2 scores. So it wasn't 2 point, we'll bring it to a 3 point game. So I really don't know why they did that. But, to go to your point, I think 2 point conversion is only necessary when it's going to get you in with 1 score because end of the day, 1 score is 1 score. Like 1 score, I mean a field goal. 1 score, I mean a field goal because a touchdown is a lot harder than a field goal because you only need, 50, 40 yards instead of 100 yards. So,
you're absolutely right. Like, in that situation, I could see if it's going to make it from a 2-score game to a 1-score game, of course, you go for it.
Yeah.
But you made me think about something where I wanted to go with this is I've heard some people make the argument where you go for two the first time around so that if you get it,
you win.
You can, you have a chance to essentially win the game next time around. I hear that point. It's not that it's not true because it is, of course, but you still have the same opportunity.
Oh, I know. I'm with you 100%.
Do it on the reverse side because if you kick the PAT and get the 7, if you go downfield for another touchdown like you'd have to do anyway, you can kick the field goal again or the PAT to tie the game or go for 2 that time and win it. You still have that choice. You're just saving it till the end when there's still going to be pressure, but there's less pressure and you're not putting yourself in this situation where you have to go for it. It just, I don't get it.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, Anybody can, we could have a whole freaking 3 shows on this, but I think one would be a beneficial 2-point conversion would be bringing it to a 3-point game. And 2, what the Lions did, 3 weeks ago, 2-point conversion to win the game when it's down, 21, bless you, when it's down 21-20 and you go to 2-point conversion, win the game. But in this case with the Buccaneers, I mean, what beneficial at the end of the day, what was that beneficial of?
Yeah.
Obviously, you still got to score 2 scores. So I don't know if they wanted to, get momentum and thought maybe they'd give an extra oomph, but you're a football player. Why do you need an extra oomph,
Yeah.
It was just I was watching the game with a couple friends and somebody was trying to tell me that, it would be the 3 points. And I'm like, hey, dude, simple arithmetic. It's not 3 points. It's going to be either 7 or it's going to be 6. So,
yeah, exactly. Weird timing.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you 100%.
I think we're in lockstep on that issue.
Oh,
but,
for sure. Either one, win the game, or 2, bring it to a field goal. Those are the only 2 necessary options for a 2-point conversion in my book.
Yeah. I'm curious before we get off that game. Me being pretty close to the Tampa market, like I said, I got a bunch of friends who root for the Bucs, and I pay pretty close attention. I root for them if the Giants aren't around and whatnot. And I'm just kind of curious this offseason. I believe Evans' contract is up, and there's speculation whether or not he ends up somewhere else. I don't see how you can't give that guy everything he asks for. And I don't know, I'm not privy to the Bucs cap situation and whatnot, but I feel like if you're the GM and the owner that you sort of have to move mountains for that type of guy. By all accounts, I've met the guy in passing. I attended some of the Bucs.
I have too. I got pictures with him. I met him. He's a very nice guy.
Seems like a great guy. Never in trouble. Never has a bad thing to say about anybody. And is a gamer. I mean, setting records, most consecutive seasons, I think, with 1,000 yards, whatnot. As good as Godwin is, and there's certainly got a couple other guys. I think I forget his name now, but there was a speedy receiver, young guy who was out there this past weekend. So I'm sure they could try to replace him, but that's some big shoes to fill. I think you got to do everything you can to re-sign him. And I wanted your thoughts. Do you think he is still in the red and pewter next year, or do you think he's somewhere else?
No, I think he's gone. And the reason why I say this is, I mean, he's gone balls to the wall for the Buccaneers franchise. I mean, you just touched on it. He's been in the league since 2014. Every single year, he's got 1,000 yards receiving. I mean, he is a stand-up guy, as you said, as I said. I met him, you met him. I've taken pictures with him. I mean, he goes out of the way to be a stand-up guy in the community, a stand-up guy individually. And for him to be disrespected by the Buccaneers, and I don't mean to, that's a strong word to say, but I think just to be disrespected, I mean, they were talking about it before the year started. He wanted a contract extension, and they pretty much told him, nonchalantly to haul ass. And I think Mike Evans, as we saw, he had 140 yards receiving this past Sunday. I think he leaves. I think he wants a clean slate, unfortunately, and I don't think he's going to come back. I think somebody is going to blow his socks off, give him, a 3 or 4 year deal with a lot of guaranteed money. I'm looking at his stats right now. Back in 2016, I want to say, hold on, I just had his contract. Give me 1 second. So he signed a contract, and it was kind of a slap in the face. He signed 2018. It was a 5-year deal for $82.5 million with $55 million guaranteed. I mean, $55 million is nothing to squat over, but I mean that's a lot of money back then. But I mean, with him putting up 1,000 yards and setting records, they should have made him a lifelong Buccaneer. I mean, he's been a staple in everything that they've done. So I think that he's going to take that, very, very quietly, as we know, because he's a great dude. He's going to take it very quietly and kind of take that as disrespect. And that's just my thoughts. I think he's going to leave, honestly, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I would say there's a fairly high probability. It's almost the flip of a coin because, like I said, who knows if they can really afford it. Don't know what that's going to look like if they try to, bring on other guys in other positions or whatnot. It's just he's going to bring a lot. If he does end up somewhere else, he could be the piece that puts a team over the top. Honestly, somebody.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A team that's looking for that impact wide receiver out there. He's been in the league a while, but he's really, in my opinion, he's not really showing
No, not at all.
signs of decline. He's as good as ever. So,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. I think we're trying to stick our shows to a certain time frame soon. We're not quite yet at a point where we're gonna shrink it down to a specific amount of time, but we're trying. I think before we take a break, and obviously we're gonna go to our beer segment, I think maybe we can touch on our brackets real quick, and then after the break in our beer segment, we can probably talk a little hockey. We want to talk some coaches. And then obviously we'll go to predictions and some upcoming matchups before we end the show. But I'm glad you got the brackets up here.
Yep.
I not really in the conversation anymore. I've been really just had such a disastrous start in the wild card round. I guess the one saving grace for me is that I do still have my winner alive. I had 49ers winning the whole thing. But even at that, I think if I got the winner right, I think there's still someone above me that would probably win. So I don't even think I'm in the conversation to win anymore. But you're having a pretty good outing so far.
Yep.
Some others. So
yeah. So I was talking with a friend of the show, Chris Dolan, who we had on, I think episode 3 or 4, and he told me if the Lions win, this weekend, I have a really good chance of making it happen because I have the Baltimore versus the Lions in the Super Bowl. And we could pull up Chris Dolan's bracket real quick. So he has the Ravens versus the 49ers, and I think your dad has the same. So it'd have to come down to points. And as we talked about earlier in the show, your dad did not understand what the tiebreaker was.
Yep.
So unfortunately for your father, I think if the Ravens are playing the 49ers, I think it's the Dolanators bracket to win. So.
Unless it's the only way he wins is if it was Price is Right rules, closest without going over. Because
yeah, I mean, we could pull up your dad's bracket right here. Yeah, Ravens versus 49ers, but he's got 48 points in there. So
yeah.
So technically, if the Lions win on Sunday, I think I win the bracket, and if the Ravens and the 49ers win, then it'll be the Dolanator. So, it's going to be interesting because I don't think anybody else has. Let's see, Ravens. So yeah, all the way down. My dad and the known wonder Ryan Peoples, who nobody knows who the heck that dude is.
No idea.
But my dad has the Ravens, and so does he. So it looks like. If the Lions win and the Ravens go, I'll win. But if the Ravens and 49ers, then the Dolanator wins is what I've come to a conclusion.
I think you're right. You're right.
So you can probably have some words with your dad and tell him that he needs to either get thicker glasses or read the fine print or all the above.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to mention to him. And I
Mr.
can
Mr. Gross, when you watch this, there's no disrespect. I'm just being funny, but yeah, just get some thicker glasses, my friend.
I guarantee his reaction is going to be something along the lines of, "Oh, the game is stupid anyway," or something like that.
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
Seeing how well I know him. But,
so
it's fun. We talked about it. We're gonna get into some March Madness brackets in just over a month or so. When NBA and NHL come, we'll do those brackets
too. Yep.
Pretty much a bracket for any occasion, any sport. So
yeah,
it's all good. And once we make it big time, when we start making some money out of it, maybe we'll even offer up some prizes and whatnot. So
yeah, I've gotten good feedback on these. A lot of people enjoy it. I mean, like I said, I was with Chris last night, and he was speaking with it, and he enjoyed it. My dad enjoys it. I'm sure your dad enjoys it. I know, Jeff Creason, friend of the show, enjoys it. My brother enjoys it. So, more to come on that. But it's fun. It's fun to reach out to our fans and kind of do it together. So we appreciate it.
And I like it even when I suck when I'm in last. So
it is what it is. But one of the guys got to hold it up. So I'll hold it up. Co-host EOB. So there you go.
Good job.
Yep.
Nice.
So and then we're getting thirsty, man. This is a very exciting one for you.
It is. Yeah. I got one and a little bit of I guess color to add, but we'll take a short break. Stick with us, and when we come back, we'll get to our beer reviews. So
yeah, buddy.
Show back in a few.
couple beautiful girls tell me goodbye. Trucks break down, dogs run off, politicians lie, been fired by the boss. It takes one hand to count the things I can count on. No, there ain't much man that ain't ever let me down. Long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart. Like diamond rings and football teams have torn this boy apart. Like a neon dream, it just don't know me. The bars in this guitar. And long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart.
Yeah, buddy.
Beer 30. Here we go.
Yeah, this is a monumental one for you too. So I don't know if you want to lead off and tell everybody why it's monumental, but it's very monumental.
Yeah, it is a little bit monumental. I'm just excited more than anything else. I began Monday of this week. I began my fourth week in a row doing dry January. No alcohol to start the year. I was doing it for a lot of different reasons. Mostly trying to take advantage of some of the health benefits. I do feel good. My wallet's a little bit fuller. It's not been the easiest. Love having some brews and some drinks, some cocktails when I'm watching sports. Love to have a little bit of a wine when I'm making dinner. So it's been a little tough, but if I'm being honest, it's not been the hardest thing either. Just a little bit of willpower. Changing up the diet. It's a lot of great drinks out there nowadays you can substitute beer and alcohol for. So I'm pretty proud of myself, been able to
Yeah, good job. We'll give you a round of applause.
Appreciate it. Yep. I do also appreciate people like yourself, people in my life, who have supported me. Because it's easy to get tempted. I'll be honest. Like I said, it's not that I haven't wanted one, and in fact, I'm going to continue it for a couple more days. Actually, Saturday will be literally 4 weeks, one month. A lot of people go the entire month of January. For me, it's close enough. It's 4 weeks to the day on Saturday, so I'm going to break it then. Actually, Gasparilla here in Tampa is on Saturday. I was thinking about going, and it's almost like a ritual and a rite of passage where you have to drink. I think there's probably more drinks consumed in Tampa on that day than there is the entire year combined.
Yeah, we went about 3 years in a row, so we know all about that.
We've gone many a time, yeah. I'm not going. I thought about it. I'll be playing golf on Saturday during the day, and I'll probably be having some kind of alcoholic beverage in the cart when I'm on the course. So
congratulations again.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Like I said, it means a lot to my friends who've been encouraging me, especially friends, you're one of them, other friends who all like to have drinks with me, but it means a lot. So thanks for that. I'm going to go one more time with a non-alcoholic beverage to wind down my journey here.
Buddy.
Last week I did
Budweiser.
Budweiser, check out something that was sort of relatable to people because they sell it in pretty much any grocery store, liquor store, whatnot. This is probably a little bit more off the beaten path, but I'll be honest with you. I think when I was in Publix doing some grocery shopping last week, I was in the beer aisle, not for beer. That's the chip and snack aisle too, I think. So I was in the aisle, and I could have sworn I saw a guy reach for this. The label looked the same. I didn't even know that they sold this in grocery stores, but I'm pretty sure he reached for this. I wanted to ask him if he had it before and what he thought of it, but I wasn't quite positive that it was this beer, so I didn't ask him. But I'm going to show you the name, and maybe you've seen it, maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. I have no idea, but this is called Kloss Tower, I guess. Kloss Taylor.
Yes, I've heard of that. There's a funny backstory with that.
Okay. Well, hit me with it. I want to hear it because I know nothing about it.
So we have a group chat with a friend of the show, Ryan, and a couple years back at a Gasparilla, somebody bought those beers to a Gasparilla party, and
really?
Yeah. So he was leaving, and me and Ryan were hanging out, and I said, "Don't forget your non-alcoholic beers," and those were the non-alcoholic beers. That
this one?
Yes,
It
it
was this?
was.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why it's really, really, really funny.
oh man, I did not know that. Well, Ryan's a loyal listener.
Really,
I
really
know the
funny.
joke you're referring to, but I had no idea it was this year. So,
Yep.
oh
Yep.
man,
That's
okay.
classic.
Well, that is good stuff. I'll tell you why I picked it though. It's a German beer, and it says IPA on it. So I have
Yeah.
no idea what a non-alcoholic IPA beer tastes like, but we're gonna find out. So
Good luck.
this one is not like the Heineken 0.0. It's not like the Budweiser 0.0. It's 0.5. So this is like an O'Doul's. So
Yep.
I
Yep.
think that's kind of cheating. I don't know why some manufacturers do that, but they do. So Klaus Taylor IPA 0.5, and it's a German beer, so we'll see. And it's an IPA, but I have no idea what to expect with this.
Yeah. It's a very funny, the story that you brought that beer out. I love it.
All right, so check this bad boy out.
Damn, look at you. Maybe one of the first best pours of the show, man. 18 weeks in.
It only took me a couple months, but yeah, there's the color. Pretty amber, pretty traditional color. A little bit of a distinct kind of hoppy smell to it from the head, but
Yep.
I'll let you know. It's an IPA, all right.
I'm very interested in how they do it because when they're IPAs, the hops like eat the sugar to make alcohol. So I don't know how they make IPAs that are not alcoholic because very interesting. Yeah. Very interesting.
Let me
very peculiar.
It's not bad at all. Especially for an IPA, because anybody who's listened to our beer reviews knows I'm not the biggest IPA fan, but that's good. I could, if I had to, I wouldn't. I think I still prefer the beers with some alcohol in them, but that's actually not bad at all.
Nice.
Especially if you're an IPA fan, I think you'll really enjoy that. I actually like it more than alcoholic IPAs, honestly.
Well, there you go, buddy.
This has got to be high up there. That's really good. That's smooth and really good for a non-alcoholic beer. I'm going to go 8.4.
Wow.
8.4. I got to be honest. That's
strong.
Pretty good.
That's
strong.
That's strong.
That's a good. I'm actually really happy that was actually a good
the last one.
Round out my non-alcoholic dry January ventures. So,
all right. Well,
there you go.
This one I got right here. It's called a Jelly King. I don't know if you could see it without the stupid background that I have. But it's a Jelly King. It's a dry hop sour ale with fruit, pink guava. It's from Bellwoods Brewery out of Canada. So it's Toronto, Canada. So what are you talking about, eh? So, open this bad boy. And then we'll...
What's the ABV?
5.6.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like a pink lemonade so far.
I'm wondering if this is going to have as distinct notes as that ridiculous red beer you had the week or two ago. What was that one?
It was the farm stand. It was raspberry sour.
Sour, yeah, cheese. And that's got, look at that. It looks like a grapefruit beer almost.
Well, that's what that pink guava is. So pink guava, wow. So it's very, 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 very strong with the smell. It is almost grapefruity. I don't know if you know what a guava tastes like, but guava is going to be similar to I would call it a more sweet grapefruit. So let's give it a holy hell, that's good.
Yeah.
Holy hell. So as you know, I've told you before, the only food that I don't like is grapefruit. And
well,
all right, ham. Okay. This is like a grapefruit with sugar in it. So it's a sweetened grapefruit and it tastes delicious. Wow. That is really good. 8.4 as well. That is delicious.
Nice. Okay. 8.4s.
That is good. That's a good beer. That's could be a repeat customer.
I want to try that just for the color alone. Like the appearance is super cool looking. The can art was cool.
Yeah. Check the can out again. It's like it's really cool. It's got different kind of shapes and stuff.
Yeah.
So, not to give too much away about our special episode we're going to have in a week and a half, but, we were talking about trying multiple beers and, trying different kind of flavors. So not to give it away a little bit, but that might be a thing we can do. We'll go to Total Wine and figure it out.
We're going to make something like that happen. So if you're a fan of our beer review segment, make sure you tune into the show the week of Super Bowl, probably Friday evening. So
yeah, we're going to get into town. It'll be fun. It's going to be fun for us. So let's hit it.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother. Oh, man, that's good. That's tasty.
Yeah, that's mine. I mean, pretty happy with it overall.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, very good stuff. So I think we can spend a little bit of time. Obviously, we talked about we're trying to condense our shows down a little bit. But we do want to get to some stuff. We really didn't get to too much the past episode or so. It's really been dominated by football action for obvious reasons. Take just a switching gears to hockey for a moment. I wanted to just – I think we have to mention be doing them a disservice if we didn't. Your boys, you've been following them for a while. The Edmonton Oilers, I'm looking at it now, 14-game winning streak. And that's on top of the winning streak that they had a month or two ago that was snapped by the Lightning, and then there was one or two losses in between. But, I mean, if not for that getting snapped, they would have shattered the all-time NHL record, which is 17 games. I want to say it's the 92 Penguins, maybe 93. One of those early 90s years when their teams were so good with Yager, Lemieux, Francis, Samuelson, all those guys. That's the record, and the Oilers are within 3 games of it, which is just amazing because if you think back to the beginning of this season, the Oilers were a train wreck. They sent their goaltender down to the minors. Of course, his name's escaping me now, but they kind of gave him the pink slip, and people were wondering why. They were staring up in the standings at everyone, and
I got a correction on your stat too, but keep going.
Okay. They were looking up at nearly everybody. Connor McDavid was hurt for a little bit, came back, still was not playing as well as he has dominated the league in the last several years, but they've just turned it around. Like, they're firing on all cylinders. I don't know exactly what they've done different, but 14 games is 14 games. They don't play tonight, but they're within striking distance of the all-time consecutive win record, which is 17. So, I mean, was it you? I guess so. You saw them live, and this kind of all started to happen.
They did. I mean, it might be. They should pay me. They should
be paying you.
They should give a donation to this podcast. Is what they should do.
Well, at a minimum, what they need to do is throw you a hat. I mean, throw you a couple hats.
We talked about that. I believe when they had that first winning streak going on, if they hit 10, I was going to get a hat. And then I think if they hit 14 or 15, you were going to buy the alternate jersey.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy thinking about that now because that was the streak earlier.
Yeah.
I can't believe they're doing it again. I didn't make the bet again, and I don't really want to at this point. But,
I know.
Oh, man. Like, I'm sort of halfway tempted. Ugh.
Yeah.
I'll think about it.
Not to bust balls or anything, but you did say 17 games was the record. But didn't you say the Oilers, or who'd you say had it?
The Penguins.
Yeah, the Penguins had it. Yep. Okay. Just want to make sure that we were right. Yeah. So it's actually a really funny stat that the Penguins defeat the Devils actually ended their streak in 1993. Yep. And then the Devils are the streak that the Oilers started on. So that's kind of funny.
Really?
Yeah. So the Oilers started on December 21st, 2023 with a 6-3 win against the Devils, and the Penguins streak ended on April 14th, 1993 in a 6-6 overtime loss with on shootouts to the Devils.
Tell me this. I think when the Oilers had their streak earlier this season, I think the Lightning snapped it.
The Lightning snapped it, followed by the Panthers, followed by the Islanders.
So were the Islanders the last ones to beat them before the Devils lost to them?
Yes.
That's funny.
Isn't that funky how that all works out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my team was the last team was the
Yep.
first team they beat on the streak, and your boys were the last ones to actually have beaten them,
Yep.
which was over a month ago. That's wild.
Yep.
I wonder if back on that 92 season when the Devils beat the Penguins, I wonder if that was Brodeur when he was. It might have been the year before. I'll look that up later. I'm just mildly curious, or if it was my boy Chris Terreri or somebody. But man, that's interesting. But yeah, I wanted to mention it because I mean, if you're a hockey fan in any capacity, you got to pay
It
attention.
was Craig Billington and Chris Terry.
Terreri, yeah.
Terry, yeah.
Billington was he was all right.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I was just saying if you're a hockey fan in any regard, you're close to witnessing history. If you, I don't know if you got the list of the streaks up, but
I do.
It was the Penguins 17. I want to say the Blue Jackets a few years ago of all teams had 16.
Yeah.
Someone else had 15, and I think there was also another team that would be tied with the Oilers at 14. But that's really it. I mean, they're up there with the top 3-4, best teams in the regular season streak-wise of all time.
Yep. So, like regular season with one season, it goes the Blue Jackets. The Islanders had 15. The Sabres, but they had 5 1 year and 10 1 year. Then the Penguins at 15. Bruins at 14. Capitals at 14. Florida Panthers, but it was 6 1 year and 8 the other year. Bruins also 8 and 6, and then the Oilers at 14. So there could be some history, and I wish it would have happened when I called it. But hey, it is what it is. But I think I reached out the stat. I want to say they're probably 22-3 in their last 25 games, which is nuts.
This is interesting. Again, for people that follow hockey, those that don't. The All-Star break is coming up fairly soon. So there will be a break. And I'm wondering if that's going to be before they have a chance to break the record. And, it could go one of two ways, obviously. The break could help them and make it even more likely that they break the record because their team, if they're banged up, they could get healthy. Or maybe that long layoff makes them completely rusty or something and they lose their mojo.
All right, so help me out here. Give me when's I'll see it on the schedule, but when is the All-Star break?
All-Star break begins the end of the month.
Okay.
So I believe.
Okay, so they're at 14 right now. They play the Blackhawks tomorrow.
Yep.
Then they play the Predators on the 27th. Then they're off 28, 29, 30, 31. And the yeah, so their next game is February 6th against the Vegas Knights.
That would be what? 16?
So it would be 15, 16. So 17th would be the game after the All-Star break against Vegas to tie it.
Wow.
And then
is that game home or away?
It is at Vegas. And then this is really funny. So if they wanted to break the record, it's actually February 9th is actually the tentative date for our in-person show. So we could be watching history that night on February 9th.
Yeah. So 17 would be to tie it. That's right, against Vegas. So you're right.
To win it would be the 9th, which would possibly be our in-person show if everything works out. And we could be watching.
It's a 10 o'clock game, so we'll probably be on the air when we
against Anaheim. And it's on the road. And then they play the Kings the next night on the road. So
it's
interesting stuff, man. Interesting stuff.
It is. It's too bad those games aren't home because, I mean, a streak like that would be awesome to break in front of your home crowd. But, honestly, I fully expect if they do break it, the Ducks, classy as organization as any, they got a good fan base out there. They won a cup years ago. I'm sure that they would do the right thing and give the team a standing O. I mean, you never want to be the team to lose against a team that sets a record like that, but I think you got to acknowledge it. I know I would. I mean, it's not something you're going to see. I mean, that the Penguins record's been standing for 32 years. So, but we'll see. We got a couple games and it'd be interesting. I mean, that
would be fun watching it live. That would be fun.
I hope that happens. I really do. So,
and we could both buy ourselves a hat. How about that? If they bet the record, we both buy ourselves a hat.
That sounds. I might be in for that. I kind of like that idea.
It's a solid idea. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
But touching on that, I know we're coming up against time, but I did want to speak about my boys. We've since we started talking about hockey, I've always said that our boy Lou Lamoriello, he's going to shake something up, and I believe I texted you on Saturday when this happened. I said, this is the shakeup that he was going to do. And what he did, he fired Lane Lambert and he hired Patrick Waugh as the head coach. I mean, he was the head coach of the Avalanche from 13 to 16. You know, he was decent, but he wasn't anything to, write home about. But, we'll see what happens. I mean, this is the first step. And then if this doesn't work, I think he's going to blow up the roster. But I think this is Lou Lamoriello saying this is me not playing around. We need a change of atmosphere. So I'm kind of happy with it. I think I told you on the text, I'm happy with it. I mean, he's not far removed from being a player, 10 years or so, but he was a good player, and I'm kind of happy with it. I like the energy, the intensity, and we'll see what happens because we have a good team, like I've mentioned before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a shakeup, that's for sure. There's no denying that.
Yeah,
I think it was maybe a little out of left field. I don't think people expected it. There's not a whole lot of ties with Juan and the team, but like you said, I mean, you never know. I have direct experience with Lamoriello, him being the GM of my favorite team for a very long time and brought him a ton of success. I'll always be indebted to the guy. But he is not without his quirks. I'll say that, and not without surprises. So really, really interesting. I'm glad you weighed in because I wanted your thoughts about it.
Yeah, because like I said, not to beat a dead horse, but I have been saying they're going to do a shakeup, and I guess this was round one of the shakeup, and I'm going to say round 2 is going to be the roster, and then round 3 it will be who knows, man? Who knows?
Yeah, but no, you're right, and you can't say if you're a fan, which you are, you can't say that he didn't do something and that he didn't try, because I know the Devils right now are not having as good of a season as they would have hoped going into this year. Expectations were super high, and there are a lot of people calling for Lindy Ruff's head. They're just over him. I'm kind of in that crowd myself. It's not easy to find a coach mid-season and turn a team around, but it starts with the effort and with trying, and Lamoriello is doing that. So we'll see if it pays dividends. There's a little less than half the season to go. Got the All-Star break now to spend a lot of time with his team and practice. So, we'll see. It's gonna be interesting.
Yep, we will. I don't know if you want to touch any more hockey, but I do got a little bit of baseball I wanted to talk about. But if you wanted to touch some more hockey, what do you think?
No, hit me with the baseball. Let's do it.
So I don't know if anybody noticed, but yesterday they announced the 2024 Baseball Hall of Fame, and I believe this is pretty solid list to go in. I mean, Adrian Beltre, he had a hell of a year. Hell of a career. Todd Helton had a hell of a career. Joe Mauer, I mean, he's hands down probably top 5, maybe top 10 catcher of all time. And Jim Leland went in as a veterans, committee coach. So, I think maybe Billy Wagner should have made it. I mean, everybody knows Billy Wagner. I mean, he was first a stud with the Astros, then a stud with the Mets, and a stud with the Phillies. I mean, I watched a news article on him earlier today, and he was 5'5", 155 pounds, and if you saw his caps, they were leg, calf, and this dude threw 101, 102 mile per hour fastball from the left side. And his stats were arguably up there with Mariano, top Trevor Hoffman, top relievers. So, he missed it by 5 votes. So you need over 75%. He was at 73.8. So I think next year, he'll get in. But I think that those 3 players and coach, I think that they were well deserving because they had some good years. And, to touch on the players eligible for next year, I think a no-brainer will be Ichiro Suzuki. He might become the first player to be inducted into the Japanese Baseball Hall of Fame and the National Baseball Hall of Fame in MLB. And then my boy Karsten Charles Sabathia, I think he gets in just because, 251 wins, a 6-time All-Star, and then he won the AL Cy Young with the Yankees and the Indians. So I think those are the 2 dudes plus Wagner next year that get in. I don't know your thoughts on that, but it's.
I can see all those guys going in. It makes sense. Yeah. I think Sabathia had a great career. The one thing I wanted to talk about was one player who didn't get in and is not going to be on the ballot next year because he's not eligible, and that was Sheffield. I saw a lot of people talking.
Yeah, he didn't get enough. He didn't get enough votes.
Yeah, and now he's been on a few times, whatever the criteria is. I don't know how many, but. That's it. They considered him, and he's not in. And I don't know that I love that. I love the process they have scrutinizing players and determining whether or not they're worthy. But in that same vein, let's say we go the next 10 years without having truly remarkable players. This far-fetched, but just humor me. If we hold the Hall to high standards, which it should be, and not just let in anybody for the sake of letting them in, what if we go 5-10 years and don't have a ton of players who are Hall of Fame worthy? Wouldn't it be worth going back and looking at a guy like Sheffield and saying, hey, you know what? There were a lot of other players that we put in before him for right reasons, but all things considered, he's actually truly worthy because current history, recent trends don't show us anybody that's really worthy of going in. You see where I'm going with that? Like, I just don't I don't love the rule that says, hey, this guy was considered for 5, 6, 7 years, whatever, and didn't get in. So now he's done forever. I mean, I don't know that I love that.
I mean, there's a lot of, it goes tomato. I mean, I understand why. I mean, you have to be worthy of getting voted in. And the poor reason for Gary Sheffield is, he got in the allegations of steroids. And we've been seeing, guys, Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, Jason Giambi, Mark McGwire. If you get just a small little touch of steroids, you're not going in the Hall of Fame, which, that's a debate amongst debates for shows upon shows. But I mean, it sucks. I mean, he had a really, really good career. I'm looking at his stats right now. 509 home runs, 2,600 hits, a 292 batting average, and 9-time All-Star, World Series championship at 97. I mean, I loved him. I mean, this is just me because I love his batting stance. That's really cool. You could talk about, a friend of the show, Jeff Greason. We would always create a player in the baseball games on MVP Baseball or All-Star Baseball. And everybody wants that stats, I mean, that's to do that with your stance and be able to have 500 home runs.
Yeah.
I wish he would have gotten the criteria to stay on the ballot because I think he's worthy. I mean, there's no concrete evidence that he took steroids. It's just that he was linked to steroids. And it just sucks because I enjoyed watching him. I mean, he was a prototypical 5-tool player in his prime, as we talked about when we talked about with Chip. So
that's why I wanted to bring it up because it's a
prototypical 5-tool player. It just sucks.
100%. So what else do you think? You got anything else baseball, or you want to move on back to football? We can touch on some coaching stuff before we get to picks.
Yeah, let's coach some football stuff. So, I want to say after my favorite fan, my favorite coach in the whole wide world, old Jim Scumbag Harbaugh. I talked about his cheating ways. I talked about how he was going to, after the championship, he was going to leave. And you were like, I don't think it's going to happen. And lo and behold, the breaking news tonight, he went to Los Angeles Chargers. And maybe it's good. And like I said, I just think with his comment when he said that he wanted to finally sit at the big boy table, his brother, we talked about brotherly competition. His brother has Super Bowl championship. He wants Super Bowl championship. So, I think it's good for the Chargers. I mean, they have a good young team. They still got Herbert and, we'll see what happens, but I don't know. I definitely called it. I knew he was going to leave because a lot of shit's going to come down. As I said, 2 shows ago, I think ultimately they're going to vacate this championship. I don't want to get back in that subject again, but I think a lot of stuff's going to come down with this guy, doing some crazy, shady stuff. But, that's here nor there. I'm sure you have your thoughts, but that's here nor there.
Well, yeah, you're right. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. I didn't think he was really going to leave. I thought he'd want to run it back, especially with the news of Saban being gone. I mean, I don't expect that program to just immediately go to crap, but you got to think there's just going to be a natural regression. There's already, I think, been players transferring or whatever and trying to jump ship. So to me, that leaves a huge void. And I don't want to say easy, but a pretty understandable path to a potential repeat for Michigan. But like you said, I get the reasoning for why he wants to go back into
something's
the NFL.
Coming, man. I'm telling you, something's coming.
It could be. I just think the NFL is a hard beast. I mean, it chews up coaches. It's unforgiving. And I don't know, for Harbaugh to get over the hump finally, I'm a little surprised. It seemed like he had it good there. But we'll see. You know, he's got some talent to work with in LA. That's another franchise that just, I think, is sort of starved for success, and they just haven't had a ton for quite a while. But and it's not like they haven't had weapons, because, you know, you mentioned it, the tight ends I was trying to think of earlier. You know, they had Gates back in the day. You know, they had when LaDainian Tomlinson. I mean, you're talking about two guys who were arguably some of the best ever at their positions. So they've had talent, and they've just not had a whole lot of success. So see if Harbaugh is that missing link and the key to get it done. So
they're probably
bunch of
other
stuff. Bunch of other you know, the coaching carousel is in full effect right now. Still remains to be seen what the hood man Belichick does. If he ends up somewhere. I think you were looking at the list of the vacancies. It's still Atlanta that has one.
Carolina.
I think it's Carolina.
Yep.
Is it Washington?
Yep, the Redskins have it. I'm not going to change it to the Commanders, so the Redskins have it, and the Seahawks have it.
Yeah, so there's a couple out there. I'm not surprised that coaches get the axe at the end of the season, but I mean, I'm a little surprised that it doesn't continue to happen. Because, you know, again, I don't think it's a hasty move. I mean, yes, GMs probably know or what they're doing as the season winds down, but maybe they just need some time to think about it, you know? So does another coach or two get the axe after the Super Bowl or even before the draft? I don't know. I wouldn't put it past anybody, but there's a couple vacancies. Obviously everybody wants to see where Belichick goes. If he goes anywhere, I kind of think he lands somewhere. I think he wants that record, you know, the all-time wins record.
Oh yeah.
Passing Shula. I just don't know what makes the most sense. I do think the Chargers made the most sense for Harbaugh. You know,
me too.
He's still, you know, relatively young. I think he could do something with the talent out there. There's a lot of questions around Belichick about, is he a little too old? You know, was so much of his success actually because of Brady? So I think there's a lot of questions left to be answered. And the other valid one, extremely valid in my opinion, is a guy like Belichick is going to want to do things his own way. You know, he's what, 75 years old, something like that. I mean, he ain't listening to a GM or an owner. That's the reason why he did both roles in New England. He was coach and GM. He was running things the way he wanted to run them. And at his age, he ain't changing. He's going to do things the way he wants to do things. So he's going to have to find the situation that allows him to operate with a certain level of autonomy. So I don't know. It's going to make it kind of hard to find that, but maybe he does land somewhere. We'll see.
So I have, I don't know if you want to make this interesting. You know, I like to make things interesting. I like to make some predictions. I don't know if you want to write this down and make this have a lot of fun, but I have some predictions for the last 4 openings. So in Carolina, they're going to go with Bobby Slowick. He's the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. Bobby Slowick. The reason why I think about that is because he just did what he did with CJ Stroud, and the Panthers need him to do what they did with Bryce Young. So a good young quarterback. I think that the Commanders are going to promote Eric Bieniemy from he was from the Charger or from the offensive coordinator from the Chiefs. So I think that's going to happen. I think that friend of the show Jeff Creason, he called us out 3 weeks ago. Belichick's going to go to Atlanta, the Falcons.
Yep.
And I think that the Seahawks are going to go with offensive coordinator from the Lions, Ben Johnson. So those are my predictions for the last 4 head coaching openings.
I like it. That's bold. I don't
know if you have any thoughts or any disagreements or anything.
No, I mean, you know, coaches is something where like I said, that the league chews coaches up, and I don't know. There's 2 distinct ways to look at it. Like in some regard, you have sort of the obvious where you take a hot coordinator who seems like they're on the up and up, and naturally they want to be promoted to head coach, and teams are looking to replace their current head coach that didn't work out with this new offensive genius, defensive genius, or whatever. So they bring on these guys who are climbing through the ranks, and on the other hand, you have what seems like I said, the carousel of older coaches who just kind of run round and round and round the league. And, I'm thinking Denver is a good example. What's his face out there?
Peyton? Sean Payton?
Yeah, a guy who's been around for a long time. And
he took a year off.
Took a year off. Yeah. He was maybe done, but he comes right back and gets inserted into Denver's organization. So I don't know what to expect of it. I think you hit some names that sound logical, because like the reasons I mentioned, all eyes are on a guy like Johnson in Detroit. Yep. The enemy's been talked about for a number of years, so maybe those guys finally get their shot. I could see that working out. The Falcons situation with Belichick, I don't know that I see it, just because of what they have talent wise. I think the quarterback position is still up in the air.
There's rumors that they bring Cousins around. That's what I've heard. That Cousins goes to Belichick.
And I could see something like that, because if I'm Belichick, I want to either bring in my guy, draft a guy, but I would prefer to go into a situation where they have some things established. There's not as many questions, and then he could be that missing piece to get him over a hump. But if he's got this much work to do in bringing in a fresh quarterback, drafting somebody, Bijan Robinson looks good, but I think there's a lot of pieces to be filled in that puzzle in Atlanta. And that's just, if it was me and Belichick at this stage in my career, I wouldn't want to go into a situation where there's that many unknowns. I would want to go into something that's a little more stable. And obviously it's sort of a catch-22, because, teams that are stable generally aren't looking to fire their coaches, but I wouldn't want to go into something like Atlanta. It's just too many wild cards for me. You think that they could, for what Belichick's after, how many wins does he need? I think he needs 15 or 20, something like that.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have success his first year, what if they have a 4 or 5 win season next year? Assuming, again, obviously he goes to the Falcons. What's the reasonable expectation his first year? 5, 6 wins, 7 wins at most. I wouldn't really put it over that. So he's going to have to coach, a good 3, 4 years to try to get the record if he goes at that kind of a rate. But I don't know. That's just me.
I just like to do bold predictions. So, there we go.
No, I love it.
There we go. Yeah. Before we get into the picks of the week, I know we're coming up against the wire, but I wanted to mention we're going to have a new segment, after football ends. We're going to start talking about some new sports, but there was a very interesting stat that I saw this weekend. So there was a sophomore from Alabama named Nick Dunlap in the PGA Tour. He's the first amateur to win on the PGA Tour since Phil Mickelson in 1991. So I thought that was really, really cool. Very cool stuff. It was the American Express on Sunday. So
I didn't catch it. What's his name?
Nick Dunlap. He's an Alabama sophomore. And like I said, the first amateur to win on the PGA Tour since Phil Mickelson in 1991.
Nice. Yeah, we're definitely going to get heavy into the PGA.
Yep.
The tour, especially as much golf as you and I been playing a little bit lately. So, awesome.
So I thought that was kind of cool for some foreshadowing for some new segments that we're going to hit, when football's over, and, we'll hit some UFC, we'll hit some more basketball, new NHL, and
come May, I'm going to hit you with a little bit of horse racing. We'll spend 5-10 minutes to gloss over it.
I ain't worried about it. I ain't worried about it. I love horse racing. I love horse racing.
I'm going to mix that into the equation too.
I love horse racing, so I'm not scared. I love it.
Yeah, good stuff. So you're right. I didn't do a good enough job, I think, today holding us to a schedule, but it is what it is. Hopefully, good content, people enjoying it. So let's make sure we get to our picks. We pretty much, I think, at this point rounded out the year because there's only 2 games left. So we can figure out what we want to do here. Maybe take the over-unders or something like that. But this past week, my lock of the week was the Buffalo game. I actually did like the spread. I thought they were gonna win, and I thought they'd win by about a field goal or so. The spread was 2.5. Obviously, they lost, so I take the L on that one. My upset was Green Bay. I didn't think they were going to win, but I liked them to stay within 9.5 is what they were getting, and obviously they were within a field goal, so I got that one right. So I went from 16-14 on the year to 17-15. Not too bad. I'll take it. Being a couple games over 500, I mean, pretty average, pretty mediocre. And you were not far behind. You did the same. You went 1-1 this past week. You had Houston as your upset plus 9, and it just wasn't in the cards for them. So you didn't get that one. And your lock was Detroit 6.5, and I think they won by 8 points, something like that. So,
31-23.
Yeah. So you went 15-17. So just a couple games under, but we were damn close the entire way, and it was super fun. And like I said, I don't know what we can really do this week.
So I say we do dealer's choice. Either I say you take the spread or you take the over under in the 4 games, and you can pick what you want to do. I think that'll be fun. And then, we could do some fun stuff for the Super Bowl. As we mentioned, we'll have that in-person show, so we could do some real fun stuff with that. But I'd say you're ahead of me. I think you pick your dealer's choice, what you want to do. If you want to put over under on both games, or if you want to put spreads, whatever you think. I think that'd be fun.
All right. I'll go the Kansas City Ravens game. I will go. Oh boy. The spread I'm looking at 3.5. Is that what you see?
Yep.
This is tough because especially the half point.
And over under 44.5?
Yep.
Okay.
I could see the Chiefs keeping it within a field goal. Or, I also could even see them winning. So I'm half tempted to take the points as an upset there. But 44 is pretty low. And I know the Ravens defense is amazing. But if the Chiefs are going to win, they're going to have to put up points. And I have no doubt the Ravens will put up points. I could see that game being 28-21. I could see it being 24-21, which would be 25 points. But give me the over in that game. I'm going to go
over 44.5.
Over 44.5. Yeah.
That works. As your lock I guess, I don't know how you want it. Well, just whatever you want to call it.
So my lock, I could choose between that or the Lions and 49ers.
You already know what my upset's going to be. I'm sure you already know.
I have an idea. Well, I like San Fran to win, but I don't love the 7. I guess I'll go Baltimore. I wish it was 3 and not 3.5. The odds makers know what they're doing there.
Yep.
7's just too much. I could see the Lions holding with the Niners. Give me the Ravens 3.5, I guess.
Okay.
That's my lock.
Okay. So I'll start with my upset. You can already just keep writing. Lions plus 7. I'm going to roll with them. Those are my boys. Those are my people. That's my dude, Dan Campbell, head coach Dan. Like I said, last show, if I was a head coach, I'd be Dan Campbell. Just with the tenacity, just how he rolls.
Yeah.
And, I really want to take this one. So what would we say if we want to take the Chiefs? If I want to take the Chiefs, that would not be a lock. But I think the Chiefs are going to win. So
if you think they're going to win, well, you already took.
I did, but I want to go with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to play and they're going to win.
Okay.
So how do you want to handle that one?
But see, that was if we were doing them for the
it's funky. I know it's funky.
The upset and the locks. I'll give you the points if you think they're going to. I'll let you take the points.
Okay.
Both times.
Just give me 3 then. I'll take a half point off.
Okay.
I just think they're going to win. I really do. I think, not to beat a dead horse, but experience, man. I'm telling you, they're coming to play.
No interest in the over, I'm assuming. I got 51 for that game.
I got 50.5, but same difference. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it goes over. I think that's going to be a high scoring game as well. But I'm riding the Chiefs high. they've kind of been a focal point of our episodes, 18 weeks in. We've talked about them a lot. I just think they're, rolling on all cylinders. And I think Chiefs Lions Super Bowl, and then we'll do our Super Bowl predictions. But, I think it's just going to be a lot of fun on Sunday, a lot of fun for football.
It is. We talked about this, and I don't know, maybe it's kind of cheesy or something, but it's 1-3 and 1-3 in both conferences.
Yep.
And you look at the teams, I don't think if you're an honest football fan, maybe you're, a fan of, the Cowboys or the Eagles or somebody, and you're scorned or whatever, and your team got blasted by one of these four that are still around. Regardless of all that, I don't think you could say in good conscience that any of these teams don't deserve to be there, because
Exactly.
They're all really, really good. The two number ones, San Fran's been there all year, in my opinion. The Ravens, pretty close. San Fran was my pick from before the season started. Ravens look like they're easily in the same conversation, maybe the favorites now. Chiefs, they struggled, but Mahomes is Mahomes, Reed is Reed, Kelsey's Kelsey.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Knocking off the Bills on
that was impressive. Very impressive.
It was. And the Lions, I mean, I'll be honest, the Lions, I think, are probably, to me, that's like the feel-good story of the teams that are left.
I love it.
I think Dan Campbell's a great guy to play for. Again, seems like the players love him. I'm really impressed with St. Brown, who is just an absolute baller out there. He's just super impressive. The two-headed monster, the Gibbs and Montgomery, have done everything you could ask for in a running game. Hutchinson's a good story. Like, he came into the league a couple years ago and was this highly touted rookie at the time, and he seems like he's lived up to the bill. And the guy I really like, going back to my fantasy team, I might keep him and Stroud. I think we get two keepers in our league. I might have to keep Sam Laporta, because he's just been a phenom. I always go back to just the fact that there's not a lot of great tight ends in the league, at least from a consistency standpoint, guys that you consider game changers. Who is it? Kelsey, Kittle. There's just a few.
I mean, you could put Laporta in there. You could put Mark Andrews up there. You could put, Kyle Pitts, a couple weeks here and there.
Maybe.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
To me, Pitts still has. I think he needs a couple more years to continue to do that, to put him in that conversation. But either way, you're talking a handful of guys, and Laporta in his first year is really impressive. So I like the Lions. We know how long they've been without a Super Bowl, and even really up until this year, some playoff wins at home and things like that. So that's a feel-good story. I don't have a vested interest, but would I mind if the Lions won? No, not at all. I mean, that would be
don't forget
cool headline.
Don't forget who they signed. They signed my ball Zach Ertz. They signed him as a funny name.
That's a smart move. To me, I did see that come through the wire. I saw the headline, and I guess obviously the trading period is long since expired, but for some reason I thought that rosters were somewhat locked. But I guess
it was kind of funky. They said they put him to the practice squad, and then they elevated him right away. So I think somebody got hurt. One of their backups got hurt, so they're able to kind of like per se put him on the playoff roster. But who knows? I mean, he was cut, I want to say 5 or 6 weeks ago. So who knows how sharp probably. But still, Zach Ertz is Zach Ertz. I mean, he was 5 years ago. He was in that top echelon, as you just mentioned.
Yeah, it's a savvy move, I think, by their front office to pick that guy up. Same thing like Fournette. He
got released. Yeah, he got released last week before the game.
Okay.
Yeah. Not to mention he's got a great name. My ball, Zach Ertz. I mean, come on now.
Yep. Exactly.
So cool beans, man.
We got our picks in. We delivered a lot of content. Some awesome football coming this weekend. 2 games on Championship Sunday. So make sure you tune in for those. In case you missed the programming notes at the beginning of the show, Dan and I are going to take next week off, some scheduling conflicts. And
I got to work my day job, unfortunately.
Right.
Yep.
And then the following week, we're going to shift the schedule again a little bit. Instead of being on our normal time slot on Tuesday, make sure you catch us on Friday. We'll be doing a live show together for the first time, and hopefully have some surprises for you. So Appreciate everybody tuning in to us. Another successful edition of the Overtime Sports Show. Dan, what do you got? Any parting words for the people?
That's it, man. Just be ready to rock and roll in a couple weeks and enjoy this football and be ready to rock. And, got some good stuff coming. Good
Awesome.
stuff. Good stuff.
Give us a shout out on all the socials. Appreciate you guys listening, and see you in a couple weeks. Peace out.
Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Come on. Everybody come, everybody come, everybody.